I imagine that for you over the course of your career and through doing this work, helping others, you had to learn how to put boundaries around work, around different things in your life. Learn to say no to certain things in order to protect that perspective. And so, can you walk us through, like, how did you maintain and perspect this? I guess what I'm calling a God-centered approach, or you've called the spiritual art to business. What are some of the things that you had to say no to, and what are the things that you put boundaries around? How did you discover those, and then how did you execute them?
Yeah, well, it is a really important question again. I mean, for all your listeners who are probably many of whom are in their 20s and 30s, I have bad news for you. It's only going to get worse. It's going to get much harder. You're talented people. There will be more and more demands on your time. You'll get asked to do more and more things. It only gets worse. It really does. So the sooner you can understand this and really live a life that is aligned with your sense of balance and congruence, the better. So let me start by offering kind of two ways to look at this. There's kind of a vertical dimension and a horizontal dimension. The vertical dimension is congruence. It's what I am doing in this moment tied to my purpose in life. And that was the biggest challenge for me, and that's a lot of what this book is about. Is I had such a hard time making those connections and having that connectivity between what I'm doing in this present moment and my purpose in life. But let's set that aside for a second. But it's really important to get that right, to have this life-giving perspective of your work. The horizontal one is balance, which is how much time do I spend alone with the Lord? How much time do I spend with my significant other? My wife and I've been married for 42 years, and we moved 16 times, and I've been to 49 countries, and so we've had a very active life, and so it's really important to stay connected, when you're in that role. So how much time do I spend with the Lord, with my wife, with our two sons, at work, serving in the community? And I learned this lesson the hard way. That when I was 30, our first son was born, and I came home from work, and he was about 6 months old, and I thought I was having a heart attack. And I came home, and Linda was there with Mark, and she said, "Well, you better drive yourself to the hospital. I'm here with our little boy. I got to stay here." So I did. So I drove myself to the hospital. They gave me a shot or whatever, gave me a shot of whatever they give you, and gave me Benadryl because I broke out in hives in the space of about 15 minutes, completely covered my body. And I thought,
Wow.
what is going on? And the same thing happened the next night. I thought, wow, I have never had this happen before. And as Lynn and I talked about it, we realized it was stress. And the source of the stress was the way I was spending my time was not the way I wanted to be spending my time. Before our son was born, we were both working 60 to 80 hours a week, and we wanted to. We were investing in our careers. We loved it. We worked together on the weekends. We also skied 25 days a year. So it was kind of a work hard, play hard life. But now I wanted to be home with Mark. And so I realized that was a source of the tension, that I was a slave to the demands on my time. I had it inverted, right? There's a difference between whether we are a slave to them or a master of them, right?
Hmm.
And I was a slave to those demands on my time. And so I looked at my calendar. I was spending 8 to 10 hours a day on meetings. I would do all of, quote, my work at the end of the day or on the weekends. And I said to my assistant, "We've just got to fix this." So Lynn and I, we wrote down what we thought was balance for us. Again, that horizontal perspective. And it was working 50 to 55 hours a week. It was exercising 3 to 4 days a week. It was praying every day. It was being home for dinner every night when I was in town. It was traveling 30% of the time or less. I had jobs that I could travel 100% of the time, but then I knew if I traveled too much. And then it was not committing to any more than two civic boards at a time. And so that became balance for us. And I
Yeah.
carried that little 3x5 card around in my folio for 20 years. And I didn't have to carry it really, but I just wanted it as a reminder.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that way every week, but over time it was. I mean, that's basically how we realized it. And if I was getting out of whack, Linda would say, you're traveling a little too much. The kids need you more. Or if somebody would say, "Barry, would you be on this board?" And I would say, I have this silly little rule that I've said I could only do two civic boards at a time. And as Stephen Covey says, to paraphrase him, it's easy to say no when you have a stronger yes burning inside of you. So I
Mm.
would say to the person asking, I said, I've said yes to my family. I've said yes to doing a good job at work. That means I have to say no to a lot of things. But so I'm going to have to say no because my dance card is full. but come back to me in a year when this board term expires. So most of your listeners have infinite jobs because they're talented people. And so the challenge is figuring out what is balance. How much time do you want to give to work and to other things, and while still doing a great job with excellence. But if without being clear, the world will determine what balance is for us, and we'll end up in the ditch. I mean, we'll just
Yeah.
end up distorted, contorted, unhappy, and we'll be living by the world's standards, and it will just never lead to happiness. And in fact, the last point on that, which I think I've only come to realize recently, and we don't use this word very often, but holiness is a source of happiness. And as we come to live more and more within the divine design, we come into this place of sustaining joy and peace. For a guy like me, that does not come naturally to. I gratitude does not come naturally to me because I'm much more focused on what's left to be done and what has been done, or to just enjoy the present moment. And but that is what happens over time, is because we're living in conformance with the divine design. We're living in intimacy with the living God, that we realize that it's not up to us to change the world, that we are not the Messiah of the world. And as we come to really live those truths, we come into this place of profound peace and and joy. So that's my encouragement. If I were to say something to the Barry Rowan of his late 20s, early 30s, that's what I would say.